Welcome into another episode of Collective Knowledge, another special edition, super bonus, double bonus. I don't even know what all you called it yesterday in the chat, Eric. But bonus episode of Collective Knowledge. I am your host, Shane Barrett. You can find me on Twitter at FFShaneB. And joining me tonight is my good friend and colleague, Mr. Eric Romoff, co-founder of Pros with Joes and contributor for Dr. Roto and Going for Two. Eric, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing good. A little bit off air, a little bit before the show, we were exchanging some war stories about trying to get 4-year-olds to go to bed.
Yes.
And I am currently huddled up in an apartment over my garage that doesn't have heat in the middle of winter. So
Oh
I'm going to
goodness.
have to
So
whiskey
that's
my way through this one.
yeah. Well, and that explains the hoodie that you got
Yeah.
on. So that makes a lot of sense. All right, before we jump into the questions, and this one, because it is a super bonus special episode, we are actually going to have a third segment, people. So make sure you stick around after the rapid fire for that, so Eric can tell you about his super awesome cause of Pros with Joes. So let's just jump right into it, Eric, with our ad read, and that is for Thrive Fantasy. So come prop up on Thrive Fantasy this football season. Yes, I know football season's almost over, but they do have prop bets for the NBA. They've also got prop bets for golf. I just knocked over a salt shaker. Hold on. There. That's for good luck, I think, or to prevent bad luck. I can't remember which. But Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. You choose 10 out of the 20 available player props to build your lineup. Each prop is assigned a value based on the likelihood of the over or the under to hit. And then you try and hit the most props and rack up the most points to win a share of the prize pool. Use promo code FFShaneB when signing up on either the App Store, Play Store, or www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop up today, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Eric, are you ready?
Born ready. Let's go.
All right, let's get it. Okay, so when was your first fantasy football league, sir?
So I got to ride sidecar on a couple of my dad's leagues way back in the where all the scoring was on paper and out
Oh,
of USA
goodness.
Today and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But no, really more than anything, I was mainly there to refill his drinks and cheer for his players whenever they scored. So in terms of leagues of my own volition, it was when I was still in college. It was like it was a 2006 season actually. I
Okay,
had a part-time job at a mattress store, and at one of
nice.
our Saturday meetings, there was this big commotion because the guys that were in a fantasy league together were voting to change their rules, and I kind of barged my way into the conversation. Long story short, a spot opened up. They quizzed me on my NFL knowledge to make sure I had what it takes to participate.
Yeah,
And it's been no looking back ever since then.
awesome. So next question for you is that still league going?
I have no idea. uh, I mean, look, I was in college. These were 40 to 50-year-old men at the
Yeah,
time. I haven't really stayed in touch with them, but obviously, I'm no longer in the league. But I
yeah.
think I think a small handful of them are still kicking around that mattress company. So
Nice.
maybe there's hope. They've
Very
they've
nice.
probably indoctrinated and taken some lunch money from a few other college kids that were working there part time.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so then what is your longest standing league right now?
My longest standing league, my league of record, is one that I actually share with my co-host over at the DFS Pawn Shop, Mike Holland. It
Nice.
is a 14 team, I'll say standard scoring league, but it plays almost more like a touchdown only plus
Okay.
defensive premium league. It's super weird.
Ooh.
Um, I hate everything about the rules. I always end up on like the wrong side of this crazy variance. But I jumped in that one the following year, and
Okay.
we have had all 14 of us every single year since we roll over roll over 3
Wow.
players each year. It's a keeper.
Cool.
So it's partially my my guilt and my sense of responsibility to not
To
be the
keep it
first
together.
one to break the chain.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
but also I like having a unique format in each of the leagues that I carry, right? So
Yeah.
no other league in the world is going to ever set their settings this way. So I'll probably hang on to it for the duration.
Nice. I like that. All right. So I don't know if you were as much of a degenerate as I am to where you're in like 38 plus leagues. Um, but I am. I'm cutting back in 2022. We'll see if that actually holds true.
I
But
believe in you.
whole point of this question is, let's say you are capped out on leagues, but you can join one more league. Got to be your favorite settings though. What are those settings?
Oh man. So I guess following that same concept, it would have to be something that I don't have already.
Okay.
Um, I like I like heavy flex or even all flex usage. We'll talk a little
Hmm.
bit about the charity league later, but my decision to do that in year two was largely because I thought it would be fun to play in,
Yeah.
and I want to do things that are fun for me. So, despite that, I actually don't have a league that is quite that format. Um, and from there, really just looking. I mean, I'm a big fan of deep benches and deep rosters, like really having to
Okay.
scrape the bottom of the barrel in
Yeah.
terms of player acquisitions and making some ugly choices in terms of who to start week after
Hmm.
week.
Yep.
So yeah, long story short, I am a glutton for punishment.
Okay. Cool. I may have a couple of orphans for you to take over then. Um, all right. And then when did you start making content for fantasy football?
I started making content a little over a year ago, like
Okay.
um, in the formal sense. My first published piece of work was at Going for Two, like mid
Nice.
November of last year. It was a little prop
Okay.
piece.
Nice.
Um, Went on to write some Thrive pieces over there as well.
Very
And
nice.
Shane is not lying to you. There is a really legitimate edge to Thrive if you put a little bit of research behind it.
Hmm.
Um, I guess prior to that point, as I'm always on tour asking people to donate money, I was doing guest spots and radio spots and stuff like that. But yeah, first published works was November of 2020.
Nice. Very cool. What made you start?
Yeah, I guess to kind of spin off the last point, I was crashing more and more streams, more and more podcasts, largely promoting the charity, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You get to know people in the space, you develop friendships, and instead of streaming for an hour or whatever, it feels like you're just kind of chopping it up with your buddies.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
and then right around that time, Jeff Lambert over at Going for Two posted that he was looking for some more content creators. I hit up one of our mutual friends who was doing some work over there at the time, G Men J, our guy Jay
Jay.
Felicio, and I was like, "Hey, this looks interesting. How many more years of practice rounds on podcast do I need to get in before I'm ready for it?" And he was
Yeah.
like, "No, bro, go dive in right now."
Yeah.
So he made the intro. Jeff threw some prop work at me, and now it feels like I write an article every day of the week ever since then.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, Jay is actually the reason that I also ended up joining Going for Two. Jay is a former guest of Collective Knowledge, and Jeff was actually the first guest of Collective Knowledge. So
Gang,
that should
gang.
tell you how highly I think of both of them. So all right, you already answered the follow up question to what made you start. So we're gonna move on to the next thing, and don't dive too much deeply into this one.
Are you
Because
telling me to stop talking so much?
no. I think that this answer may lead to the third segment. So hold off on it potentially. So, what's your favorite thing about the fantasy football community?
It kind of goes back to the story I shared with Jay, right? Like everyone in this community is super welcoming. They're super empathetic and understanding,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just crazy supportive, right? Like before I was really even creating content, I was interfacing with like the titans of our industry through the
Yeah,
charity league, and every single one of them, like people that have 700,000 followers, people that have 700 followers, like super cool, easy to work with, like way down to earth, no ego. And, over the course of the last couple of years, as I've chatted with them more, as I've asked them for their advice or for their input, like really giving of their time, really willing to be supportive, to give hard feedback. Like this is one of those rare instances, in my opinion, where the word community is used effectively, right? Like I feel like it's just
yeah,
kind of thrown about, but this is very much so an ecosystem of different entities all supporting each other. It's a really beautiful space.
yeah. No, I completely agree with you there. Um, all right. Two questions for you, not related to fantasy football. Tell us a little bit about yourself outside of fantasy football. What's your day job? You mentioned the 4-year-old. How many kids you got? You married? Where you live, etc.
Yeah. I help my day job. I help build and scale software companies and kind of integrate them into the company that I work for that has recently acquired them. I am married. My wife and I had our 10-year anniversary last September.
Nice.
We have
Congratulations.
we have procreated. I've got a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, both both boys, um, which is just madness. Like they're awesome little dudes, individually, and then whenever they get in the same room, they're just like magnets. Like you turn
Yeah.
your back and one's on top of the other, or someone's pulling one's foot, and
Yeah.
it has been a wild ride for the last 2 years or so with these guys.
I'm
Um,
sure.
yeah, and I don't recall if you asked me about uh, other things that I enjoy doing, but most of my time goes towards those two little things that are running
Yeah.
amok in my house.
Awesome. Very cool. And where are you from?
I am in San Antonio. I'm originally
Okay.
from the Houston area,
Okay.
so Texas all the way through, but been in San Antonio long enough to call it home.
Texas forever, right? Any Friday Night Lights fans out there?
Let's go.
Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
Never.
Um, all right. So the follow up question, or the last question before we jump into rapid fire is, what hobbies do you have outside of fantasy football?
Yeah, so I mean, like I touched on, I don't really have a ton of time to devote to things outside of work and fun work.
Yeah.
Um, we're a big like outdoors and hiking family. Actually, I have it here. Like we just kind of tour the country and the
Nice.
state looking for different state parks and stuff to hike at.
Very cool.
Last off season, I got into uh, the card world a little bit. I started collecting
Okay. Yeah.
some rookie cards, mainly targeting the guys that I have shares of in Dynasty because it's just
Yeah.
like additional skin in the game.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's mostly it. I bought a really ridiculous like Lego typewriter that really works that I've been putting together like
That's
5 pieces at a time for
that's kind of
months
cool.
and months.
That is actually kind of cool.
Yeah, maybe it'll
Um,
be over my shoulder one of these days.
definitely. Okay. Are you ready for some rapid fire?
Yeah,
All right. Let's get it. Favorite NFL team?
it's the Texans.
Ouch. Favorite sport that's not football?
Basketball. I'm a hoops guy.
Nice. Very nice. Who's your favorite team?
Oh man. I mean, my allegiances lie with the Rockets,
Okay.
unfortunately. Um, like personally, there's nothing more fun about the idea of Clay Thompson dropping into this version of the Warriors right now. It just seems
Yeah.
unfair. So it's going to be
Yeah.
really fun to watch when he does get back.
Yeah, definitely. No, and my fantasy team needs him desperately too. So,
Yeah.
all right, favorite food.
I'd probably say Thai food. Basically, any
Very
kind of
nice.
Asian-y food that involves noodles is going to
Nice.
be right up there for me.
Solid choice. Favorite sports movie.
The only correct answer to this is The Sandlot.
Oh, that one hasn't been mentioned yet. That's a great choice though.
Really,
Yes.
we need to talk to
We've
your former
gotten
guest.
we've gotten Remember the Titans, we've gotten Miracle. I think we might have gotten Bull Durham if I remember, but yeah.
Yeah,
Haven't gotten Sandlot yet, so I like that one.
all solid
Favorite
choices.
yeah. Favorite non-sports movie.
Um, it's probably not worth this category, but for me, it's Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Infinitely
Nice.
quotable. I crack up every single time I watch it. I
Nice choice.
find new little Easter eggs every time I come across it.
Very nice. All right, and favorite adult beverage.
I am. I have commitment issues. I'll go with I'll go with bourbon. It's like
Nice.
55-45 bourbon and tequila.
Nice.
Usually
Very nice.
just on the rocks.
Oh, very nice. All right, favorite TV show.
Does football count?
Sure.
Yes. I also have young kids, so basically the only screen time I can sneak away for is football.
Yep, makes sense.
We did just watch Sing 2 and it's killer.
Okay,
So
nice. Very nice. Have you watched Encanto?
uh about 12 times.
Yeah,
Don't talk about them.
sounds sounds about right. Yep.
Don't
Nope.
talk about
Don't
them.
talk about Bruno. Um. All right. Last two. These are I need right now, and I need all time. So favorite defensive
Ooh.
player.
Um all time defensive player. It's gotta be Lawrence Taylor, right? It's Lawrence
Nice. Okay.
Taylor. Right now, a little inside baseball. I told Shane he would like this. I really enjoy watching JOK.
Yeah, I
My dude
love
for the
that one.
Browns, like he's just like that. He's that Joker. He's
Yeah.
everywhere. He plays like his hair's on fire. It's just
He's
going to be a
like
ton of
it's
fun
like
to
he's
watch this kid
shot out
continue
of
to
a
develop.
cannon.
Yeah,
It's like he's shot out of a cannon. I freaking love it. So yes, I do love that. I love that answer.
good one.
Um, okay. Same thing, but offensively, need favorite offensive player all time, favorite offensive player right now.
Offensive player all time. I will show my homerism, and I will say Arian Foster. Both because he
Oh,
was like just really fun to watch run, right? Kind of that like methodical, find the hole
hmm
and explode. Also, that was like the first season where I really went like all in on kind of a no-name player in the draft, and he immediately
yeah,
paid off, and
very
that's
nice,
fun for me.
very
Right
nice.
now, I will go with T. Higgins.
Oh, I
Um,
like that pick too.
One of those dynasty players that I started acquiring last year. I thought he was going to be the alpha receiver in Cincinnati for a decade or so. Now they're going to have two top 10 receivers, but
They've got one
uh,
A and one B.
yeah, it is terrifying if let's say I was like a Browns fan to be in that division for the next decade or so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, well, that wraps up the normal episode of Collective Knowledge, but this is no normal episode. It is time for our special edition. Um, Eric, if you will hit me real quick with the at for Pros with Joes. It's just Pros with Joes.
Pros with Joes, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna throw that up real quick. Perfect. Yep. So you and I have talked a lot over the last year or so because you run Pros with Joe's, I run Polly's Playoff. I really appreciate you as a person. Anyone in this space that dedicates their time to a charity cause like you have done, I will always give an avenue in any of the shows to discuss it. And I know right now is a really important time for you, so I wanted to give you that avenue. So I've got a couple questions for you about Pros with Joe's to hopefully kind of help you open up the door and let you talk about it. And then, real quick, I'm also going to throw in the chat the link for people to donate. And that will also be included on the show notes when this comes out as audio on Monday. So,
Killer.
all right. First question for Pros with Joe's. How did it start? Where did the idea come from?
So dating back to a few weeks before the season in 2020, there was an episode of the FF Today podcast where the crew over at CBS was trying to determine what to do with their remaining couple of spots in the listener league. And Dave Richard actually suggested that he would be open to sharing a team with someone in that listener league, because he wanted to get more people in and just wanted to work alongside someone. So that was kind of the origin story of the idea. Shortly after hearing that, my co-founder Rob Thomas dropped a tweet out there. He atted Dave Richard, a few other people to see who would be interested. Um, just by happenstance, that came across my timeline. I just listened to that episode myself, and so I hit Rob up and I was like, "Hey, is this what he was talking about in the podcast episode?" We kind of got to chatting from there, and almost just kind of started daydreaming about, man, do you think that we could actually like build out a whole league like this? How would we go about raising money? And just, I mean, literally spent all night just kind of bouncing ideas back and forth. And by the next morning, we had a few people that had responded back saying that they would be interested in playing, and we started spreading the word. I think this was like 18 days before the kickoff of the 2020
Yeah,
season.
it was
So
pretty
it was
close. I remember when you reached
it,
out to
it
me.
was really whipped together very quickly. Um, but it was crazy, right? Like at first we thought like we were going to, maybe scratch together like 10 people, right? And like he and I would
Yeah,
have to like pretend to be industry pros to round out a league or whatever.
yeah.
Um, and before long, like, the momentum just sort of built, right? We went from, constantly hitting everyone up, begging them for their participation, to all of a sudden people were hitting us up, asking
Yeah,
how it works and how they can get involved. Kind of to my point about the essence of the community earlier, right? Like once once there is word out there that someone is trying to do a little bit of good, it gets a lot of traction behind it really quickly.
yeah, totally. Totally, totally. Yeah, and even like for example, I threw this tweet in a group chat earlier and it was like, "Hey thieves, I know some of you guys played in this and a couple guys that weren't in it this year were like, "Yeah, I already reached out to Eric to be a pro next year." And I was like, "Awesome."
Yes.
Um okay, this is a fun question, I think. Just to kind of show people like who all has been involved. Who were some of the like super big name people that have played? Like I know a couple of them, but I want you to share some of your favorites and then just some of the bigger names in there as well.
Yeah. So 2 years in a row now, we have been blessed with Shane Barrett. We've got guys like G-Men J. Um, yeah, I mean that's kind of the sort of beauty of how this all came together, right? Like there are so many different outlets and platforms out there that we really wanted to sort of cover the gamut, right? So we have people that are a couple of years into the industry that are really, looking to kind of build that base of support. We have people that are, kind of taking their careers to the next level here in the space, and we have,
Yeah,
people that are established names, right?
yeah,
I think in terms of follower count, at least, Adam Rank, Stefania Bell, Dave Richard, our champion in year one, and kind of the
nice.
originator of this idea, Matt Harmon, who won here in year
He,
two.
yeah, I was gonna say he won
Um,
year two.
Yeah, and all the way down to people that were at least at the beginning of last year, kind of just making podcasts and throwing it out into the void that
Yeah.
had an opinion they wanted to share. So we don't have very restrictive definitions of pro, right?
Yeah.
And that's by design, right? We want representation and inclusivity to be part of the deal.
Yeah, totally. I love it. Um, did Stefania play this year again? I don't remember.
She did, yeah.
Awesome.
Um,
That's really cool to me.
Yes, Stefania is incredible. She's super gracious with her time,
Hmm.
and her time is spread very thin. And what I appreciate most about Stefania is on the airways, like they poke fun at her for her homerism towards the 49ers, and it
Yeah.
bleeds through. The first waiver run of the year, I think she went out and dropped like 80% of her fab on Eli Mitchell. And it's
Oh
like,
my
if you weren't a
goodness.
Niners fan, you would have spent like 55% of it like the rest of us, right?
Yeah, totally.
But
That's
it's
awesome.
cool that like these little, these things that you see on TV or that you hear on podcasts are like who these people genuinely are. Like it's cool to
Yeah.
see that come to fruition, right? A lot of times, you meet people that you idolize or that you're a fan of, and it's like they are not at all who I thought they would be.
Yeah.
And that couldn't
This
be further from the case in the fantasy world.
That's awesome. Yeah, they say don't meet your heroes, but it sounds kind of like from your experience, the people in the fantasy industry prove that theory wrong. And
Undoubtedly.
are completely down to earth and just awesome. I mean, clearly we've got multiple charity tournaments that go to support different causes, and yours is one of them, and I love that. So, all right, last question before we wrap up the show. How can people get involved still this year? Because I still think, if I remember right, hint, hint, wink, wink, there is some time for people to get involved this year still. And when I say this year, I mean like for the 2021 football season. And then how do people get involved next year?
Yeah. So we raise money two different ways to raise money in the preseason. That's how we determine our pairings, our teams, and then we continue to raise money all the way through the regular season. And that is the pot that goes to the eventual winners charity. Like I mentioned a minute ago, Matt Harmon took down the championship in year two, and our in-season fundraiser is still open through Monday. So if you check us out on Twitter, it's pinned up top. If you go to our website, proswithjoes.com, you can see there's a donate button.
It's
As
in
you
the
go to that
chat.
donor page, it is in the chat as well. Um, as you go there and donate, every single dollar that is raised there goes to Matt Harmon's charity. His cause this year
Awesome.
is one that's super personal. He lost a colleague of his at Yahoo, Teres Paler, to actually I don't want to misspeak as to the circumstance, but lost him earlier this year, and his family created an endowment, a scholarship foundation
Okay.
at his alma mater. So that is the
Awesome.
cause that Matt's raising money for, and we are still raising money for him through the end of the day on Monday. So still
Cool.
have an opportunity to contribute to that and to send a little bit more money to that scholarship foundation. In terms of rolling forward, if you go back to our website, proswithjoes.com, right there on the landing page, there's two different buttons, either to pre-register for the third season for the 2022 fantasy season, or if you want to be a pro and participate with us and raise some money for a cause that is near and dear to your heart, there's a button on that page, and you can fill out a form therein, and we can get you added to the roster for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will be back in year 3. And you guys all know my cause, Alzheimer's Association. So I will gladly be back for year 3, Eric. Thanks again for coming on,
Absolutely.
man. Um, and make sure you guys follow him on Twitter at FantasyNav. Let me throw that up real quick. There we go. And then also make sure you follow the Pros with Joe's account at Pros with Joe's on Twitter. This has been another episode of Collective Knowledge, and I am your host, FF Shane B. If you like the show, make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube at Fantasy Football Collective. Follow us on Twitter, FF_collective. Collective is KOLLECTIV. And this will come on the Fantasy Nightcap podcast on Monday, like I said, just to give everybody another chance to donate to Matt Harmon's cause. So, Eric, I appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, cheers.